As entrepreneurs, we all want to make a difference. And we want to keep on making a difference and leave a tremendous legacy. Well, I have a remarkable guest today. She is an amazing individual. I've known her over a number of years. We hang out at some of these CEO mastermind groups together. And she's the one that everyone looks to really understand the estate planning, the business succession, and a lot of legal issues, which is really high. But what I want to talk about today, I've asked Denice to really focus in like a laser, is this whole process of estate planning for entrepreneurs. The opportunity for us to really deal with our personal side and our business side so that we have everything taken care of no matter what happens in life. It is an amazing opportunity for each and every one of us, because we all know we're not going to get out of this game alive, but we're going to win the game nonetheless. I'm John Bowen. You are at AES Nation. It's all about accelerating your success, and you want to stay tuned because we're going to show you how to do it.
Ordinary success? No way. You want amazing, remarkable, exceptional breakthroughs. Dig deep, think bold, drive hard, watch yourself soar beyond your dreams. AESNation.com.
Denice, I am so excited to have you here today. You and I have sat together at many of the mastermind groups, Joe Polish's Genius Network in particular. And you're one of those attorneys who really thinks big picture. You're an entrepreneur. You're making things happen. You've been practicing for over 30 years, or not practicing. You've been doing it right for over 30 years. And you've got all kinds of credentials, you know, the financial side, the CPA, the management, the legal. And you bring it together really nicely. And this is where I see so many of my friends, and before we turned on the camera, I shared one just recently in our family that I had to go through, 3 years of legal action protecting some family interests, and it's just, and I actually referred him, it was my parent stepfather referred him to someone to take care of it, and he kind of did it. so there's just a huge opportunity, and so many challenges both for us as entrepreneurs, but also for family members. And it doesn't need to be. But I want to get a little of the backstory, because I think of you as this high-powered attorney, making a difference. And did you wake up? I always go at age 5. Did you decide you were going to be an attorney?
Well, it wasn't age 5, but the story behind it is actually my uncle was an attorney, and he had an office that was about 3 blocks from our house. So one day, for some reason, my dad was going to go over there, and he asked if I would go with him. So while I'm over there, my uncle is seeing a client for a divorce, and he asked me to come in, and he said, "Would you like to sit in on this meeting?" Of course, he asked the client to see if it was okay. This lady was she was bawling her eyes out. And all I remember, because I think I was probably like an 8th grade or something like that, was that, when he got done with the conversation with her, she wasn't crying anymore. And I thought, wow, I wonder if I could do that someday. So, well, here I am some years later, doing not divorce work, but we deal with many families of entrepreneurs, and it's been a really rewarding experience for all of these years.
It's such an opportunity, too, because when we survey a lot of entrepreneurs, affluent families, and when we look at the 5 big concerns that they have, Denice, number 1, they want to make smart decisions about their money. They're building that wealth for family and independence. Second is they want to mitigate income taxes. But number 3 is taking care of the heirs. And oftentimes those first 3 are interrelated. And then 4 is protecting the assets from being unjustly taken. And 5 is going ahead and making, really magnifying charitable gifts. And this is what we see over and over again when we study successful entrepreneurs. And so often they're so busy doing it in the office that they don't take care of this. I mean, what's your experience in working with entrepreneurs in their really dealing with these issues?
Well, that's exactly the problem. I mean, there's always a fire to put out at their office, so to speak, that, they don't get around to this. And they really look at the process like it's really so overwhelming to make that choice, as if they can't change it later. I tell, my entrepreneurial clients that, hey, if you don't make a choice, life is going to make a choice for you. And it may not be the choice that you would have in mind. So, give it your best shot now. I'm not telling you to guess, but everybody in your business, you're making educated guesses every single day of the week. So it behooves you to make your best guess now and come up with a plan of how you're going to do those first three things you talked about. So you can get eventually to that legacy portion, that charitable giving portion, that give back portion. That's something that you can show you were alive here for a purpose. So, we at our firm try to take the guesswork out of it. We used to deal with things in a 10-page questionnaire and the standard process. I found, I just got these blank stares and nobody would do anything. So, we boiled it down to 2 sides of a page. I interview them for the rest. I make them bring their financial information in. And so the process has to be simple. And that is what we've built our process around, is making it simple. The hard part is making those decisions. Who's going to be in charge of things? What's going to happen with your business when you die? And I tell people, you need a written succession plan, but before you do that, at least give me 5 names of companies that you would feel confident in having your spouse go and sell your company to, so that, when you die, it's not going to be like a bunch of vultures coming in, for the kill. So I'm sure I'm off your point.
No.
Generally speaking, it's something that needs to be looked at. So we try to make the process very easy.
So, as you think about, Denise, one of the things I see over and over again why I wanted to have you on is, just the horror stories. I mean, you and I had, so, most of my life I was a financial advisor for, many high-tech executives here in Silicon Valley, and then I did sports and entertainment. And, life happens, life intrudes. Nobody gets out of life unscarred. And we're living longer, the higher likelihood of some of us getting dementia now, the health, we're progressing, we want to have all, we're, if you're listening to this, you're already successful, you're accumulating assets, you're making a difference, you're working hard in your business. And what a shame to, I'm going to give one example here. Denise, maybe you might give another. I'm going to think of one when I was a financial advisor. This is a while ago, but it was the first one where it really hit me. I'm at the south end of Silicon Valley, kind of halfway between San Jose and Monterey, and I'm surrounded by about 20 vineyards, wineries here. I've got an acre of Merlot too. I like the wine and all that. And one of my clients passed away, and I had just got them because the classic, I'll call it a heart attack that we have, that they now getting advisors, and we just got it right at the end of life. And he had set up the really a pretty successful vineyard, but not very much cash flow, land rich. And where the spouse had the income and the kids had the remainder interest, what's left over, but the kids were trustees. And the wife had no ability to make any of the or make any disposition of the assets, and there wasn't enough cash. The family was really ended up being destroyed on the difference of how we were going to take care of mom, because mom wasn't, had some health issues of on her own, and they could have sold a piece of property, put millions and no problem with cash. But, and this is if somebody had worked with the family ahead of time to think this out, or as you talked about, when they first did it, they had no assets. It really didn't make any difference. Right. The value exploded, and just a real problem. And I see, my own family has been touched by this, where people didn't deal with things that they were supposed to do, even with top help around. Everybody's kind of doesn't want to talk about estate planning. It's like particularly entrepreneurs, we're all going to be immortal, Denice.
Yeah, well, eventually we'll all have Google chips in our head, just like Ray Kurzweil's.
We'll probably, with Ray, we'll probably have to take, some of you don't know Ray. Ray's one of the most successful, I want to call futurists. And that's not a right name. He's now head of research at Google, but he's an amazing individual. And I think he takes about 100 and some supplements a year. And he's one most predicting that we will be able to live forever. There's a likelihood. And I'm with him if he can figure it out. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, I read one article where they had talked to him, and he said death is really a mistake in the DNA, and during our lifetimes, he says, we ought to be able to fix that. So I'm with him. I'll live with a Google chip and totally rebuilt by that time. That's okay with me.
We're kind of kidding about it, but the reality is we are living longer, and in the next 15 years, almost every futurist out there, a health professional, sees big breakthroughs. So we've got to start dealing with this stuff now because these assets have to take care of us longer. We're going to have multiple generations that we really want to take care of. And Denice, maybe, you talked about getting together with you, if they're, wherever they are, if they're getting together with a talented estate planning attorney, it's kind of thing that everybody goes, well, I'm not really sure what I want to do, so I'll do that later.
Yeah, many times people do put it off, but it's okay to come in and have a sounding board. If you have a good estate planning attorney, that person is going to be listening to what your concerns are and identifying some things. Many times we find that we'll have multiple marriages, so you have children of different marriages, and sometimes I'll see trustees that are the kids of another marriage from the principal beneficiary, the wife, and that causes all sorts of conflicts. So sometimes it's better to rely upon a corporate trustee, because they're going to be impartial, and you just give them instructions as to what it is you want to have happen, who comes first, who comes second in the pecking order. But going back to the business, sometimes you have everything is left to, say, children, 3 children. You got one involved in the business. The other 2 are going to stand there with their hand out if you don't do something and expect they're going to get paid the same as what the person is that's working in the business. And so it causes a lot of problems that you can't just sweep them under the rug, guys. You've got to really just decide, again, make your best guess here of an educated guess. Who's going to be the best to be in charge of that business, and who's going to be the best one to be the trustee. They don't have to be the same people. And you can use a corporate trustee and a corporate trustee to also take over to run your business until it eventually sells, if that comes to that, because you don't want to have this conflict going on between all of the beneficiaries. The only ones who make out on that are the lawyers, and I shouldn't shoot myself in the foot by saying that, but I never like to see that. I like to see a plan come together like the person whose plan it was wanted to see it.
I see it time and time again, Denice, that there's a very famous beer family that everybody probably that's watching this has had at least one of their products. And unexpectedly, the patriarch passed away. And it was a blended family, multiple marriages, 7 kids, and only one child was working in the business. And this is one of the most successful families, and this is all public. And they went ahead and he named the youngest son and one of the moms as the trustees and gave absolutely no power or influence to the rest of the family. And it just, it was devastating. That was the last it happened. He passed away after Thanksgiving. And they never had another Thanksgiving dinner together. And I never met the man. I know the son that was involved in this. And it's just, it doesn't need to happen. So, when we go through and we're doing the process, one of the things, Denice, that I think is so important for all of us to recognize, because life does change, that when we're putting our plan together, it's not irrevocable until, there's some triggering events that happen, usually death.
Right. Right. Usually upon death, then it becomes irrevocable, but there are certain things that you can make, to be irrevocable if you want to, such as gifts or different charitable things. But it doesn't have to be. So you can adjust it, and you should adjust it according to changes in circumstances. And it may be that because life throws you curves, that you had a son or a daughter in mind who was going to take over that business for you, but for some reason they decide otherwise, or they die, or something happens. So that's something that you have to adjust as time goes on.
Well, the other thing I think that's so important when we're talking about entrepreneurs is we're talking about individuals who have created businesses, and there's some value in that business. And oftentimes, we're talking with the CEOs, or certainly one of the most senior people there. And what happens is when you're gone, there's a void. And if you talked about this, Denice, the succession plan isn't dealt with, we can see the valuation come crushing down. I've been involved in a number of situations like this where somebody didn't deal with it. We get the call that there's 6 weeks before, when I was a financial advisor, it's terminal cancer. They've got a business. They're going to get it in shape in 6 weeks. It's not going to happen. And and the key employees who are family, so often are very opportunistic there. And you can see, they want to buy it for a song. It's so disruptive. How do you see entrepreneurs going ahead and dealing with this business succession? Because, if they do it a little ahead of time, it's really not that challenging.
Well, my favorite story is I bumped into an entrepreneur who started a business about 25 years ago, and he had just sold it for $500 million. So I asked him, when did you decide you were going to sell the business? And he said, when I put the business together, I was on the 25-year plan. I said, well, you're the poster child, I guess, of succession planning, because most people don't even think about, when they're going to sell. So he had both of his kids were involved in the business, and he went to them about year 20, and he said, okay, when you get up in the morning, is this all you can think about? You can't wait to get to work to do whatever you're doing. And they said, well, Dad, it's a fun thing, and blah, blah, blah. And he says, that's okay, I get it. Because he knew that it would really take him 5 years, not 6 weeks, but 5 years to really do a good way of building in sustainability into the business so that he could maximize what he could get out of it when he sold it. Now, as entrepreneurs, we all think we have to take this idea that we ran with and keep this business alive forever until we die. I think that sometimes is a mistake. Sometimes it makes sense, just like he did, to plan that we're going to be selling it. And then we're going to be a serial entrepreneur, put it into something else. Maybe take half of our proceeds off the table so that you can go to a great financial advisor who can, have some liquid assets for a change, because many entrepreneurs don't have the liquid assets. They're so busy investing and reinvesting in their businesses. So it's a good idea to really have a plan, and that plan really should be in writing. It's going to be adjusted from time to time, but you need to be working with somebody to question what it is that you have in mind, and to throw ideas out for you so that you have an actual plan that somebody can execute against. So if something happens, a triggering event, like you are ill, you are in an auto accident, whatever it is, you die. There's a playbook that you can play against, because if you don't plan, you are actually planning to fail. I forget who it is that said that. John probably knows. But that's something that, most entrepreneurs always back burner this issue. But what's the biggest asset they have in their estate? Is their business. So, that asset you've got to protect. That's your baby. And you would always protect your baby, but you're not protecting your own biggest asset.
Well, what I find too when we look at that, I mean, I totally agree, Denice. And what happens so often is there's a real opportunity, and the real opportunity, it's simple, is to go ahead and do the succession planning, because having been involved in about 50 acquisitions along the way, I can tell you, if you have a good succession plan, you're raising the value of your business, because you've got, as Denice, you're maximizing cash flow, you're going ahead and you're building the business so it's sustainable. And here's the thing, for all of us as entrepreneurs, it's great without you. And a great business is one that will continue without you. So you have the most flexibility, you have the total freedom. Now, you may choose never to sell it. Okay, and we ultimately have a disposition at death, but you can do that. But having that option, and Denice, I totally agree. We call it the 5-year plan. Almost everybody needs at least 5 years to do that. We have an M&A group, merger and acquisition group, so we advise on this in the financial services space. Mm-hmm. And it's just I see so many half-baked ideas. But once they get it, it's like, the light comes on, and they're so glad they went ahead and got the succession plan taken care of.
And there's lots of different levels of doing the succession plan, so don't feel like you have to have all of the answers in order to sit down and actually do something. You need a broad brush approach to start with, and then you have to identify within that succession plan, who do I need to replicate some of the jobs that I have, because now my unique ability has grown beyond what it was when I started. So maybe I came in and I was selling product. Well, now I should not be selling product anymore. I should bring in somebody else, train them on how to do what I did the best, and then move on to the next position. And until you can make this a self-managing company, so that you can walk away, you can go to Florida for a couple of months during the winter time or whatever, and that business is going to succeed anyway, and it's going to throw off cash for you. Because that way, when you sell it, if you decide to sell it while you're alive, as one of the options you have, you're going to maximize your return out of it, and you're not going to buy yourself a job working for somebody else. And many times, if you're looking at that 6-week wonder, guess what? You're going to have to work for that company for 3 years, and that's not going to be pleasant when you've been an entrepreneur on your own.
Well, having sold a few businesses along the way and stayed around for the earnout, I can echo that too. Selling it to large businesses. That some people really, very few, I can say, CEOs make it through the full earnout. Just there's all kinds of studies. The average is I think it's just under 18 months. But, the other thing that I love in today's world, I mean, you and I are talking, you're in the Chicago area, I'm in Silicon Valley, and we are, using technology, it's virtual that we're getting together here, although we get together in our CEO groups on a regular basis. One of the things you do that I've been doing for a long time, Denice, is this outsourcing of general counsel. I just want to touch on this because as we're building our businesses, we're scaling up. Some of us have tremendous legal needs. I mean, you've got the scale already. You've got a general counsel. You may even have a full team. Many of us, though, don't. And I have multiple businesses. I have multiple legal needs. And I've just found, really the whole concept of outsourcing this virtual general counsel to be so valuable. Maybe just because I know you do that as well, and it's a little off the estate planning, but I want to touch on it.
Yeah, we kind of started doing that because I always felt like my clients were giving me a ball when it was on fire. Say, here, put it out. And I kind of got tired of putting the fires out, honestly. So, I thought that, the large companies, they have a legal counsel that's down the hall from all the management team. So anytime that they have a merger and acquisition target or something going on, they'll go and sit down in with the counsel and run some questions by them. They're part of the team. When it comes to, they are truly a counselor at that point. Whereas the model that law has grown into for businesses has been, well, I'll hire this person to do one thing and another person to do something else. And in the smaller context, small to mid-sized businesses, there's nobody that's able to watch the store. So you really don't know what you have. For instance, I have one client that I have on this program, and when he had 22 companies. So when he first came in, I said, okay, draw me a picture of how these all relate to each other. So he did. Then I asked him, bring me all the Secretary of State's reports, and I'll draw the second picture. You know, those two didn't agree. So I said, now let's have some real fun. You give me all the tax returns. Let's see what you told Uncle Sam. Now I had 3 different pictures, none of them matched, and I had 4 companies out of the 22 that had never filed tax returns. But nobody knew because nobody was coordinating it. So, you know, this is
I just want to stop, Denice, because
yeah.
I think that is something, again, that we're all charging ahead as entrepreneurs in. And it's so easy to have this happen to your businesses. And as you have more success, you have more entities, you're doing different things and so on. And I think this is an invaluable, I mean, it is, I do have, you know, a virtual general counsel. I have because I'm in the security industry, I have to have it on the security side. I have a virtual CFO for the 3 businesses I have. And I got to say, it's been invaluable because, you know, getting them involved along the way, other than, you know, waiting to bring, you know, I just had a heart attack, Denice, here it is type thing, or the government is here to help, you know, give you a call type thing.
Right. Like I had a call this morning for one of my clients, and he said, this is not a good Monday. And I said, why? And he's not one of my outsourced general counsel clients. And he said, OSHA just walked in the door.
And to help, too. They always say, I still remember, I remember one time I had the California Department of Corporations come in with 5 agents showing my reception as badges to come in and help. And,
you want to help.
I actually had no issues, but they billed me in California at that time. They could bill you hourly for the time they spent with you.
No.
Yeah. So there a lot of this stuff that you can be preventive. It's so distracting. And, you know, the reality is we all have to deal with these regulatory issues and the legal issues. And sometimes as entrepreneurs, you know, we're focused on commerce and we miss these things and we don't want to do it. Okay. I want to go to the next segment. And the next segment is the book of the day. And Denice, you know, I'm not going to let you off. I want you to recommend your book. And so let me put it up on the screen. It's pretty new. And tell us what's in there.
Well, this book is hot off the press. It's on Amazon, and it's called Your Worry-Free Legacy. I'll shamelessly promote it. What I did is I took most of the commonly asked questions that I get from clients and, you know, the answers, and I put them into a book format along with articles and stuff in the estate planning area so that people could read it and it would answer some of their questions so that they felt more comfortable with the topic as a whole. So, yeah, as I said, it's hot off the press, and, you know, it is a good way to give you a real basic view of going forward on your estate planning.
Let me just read it, you know, for those of you who are listening. Your Worry-Free Legacy, everything you need to know about estate planning. And as always, we'll have the links at AES Nation. And, you know, I have not read it, Denice, because you didn't tell me that you did this book until, so I will read it, and I am sure it's going to be unbelievably good, because this is an area that all of us, I was telling Denice, I gave a talk not that long ago to 100 really top tier estate planning attorneys, and I asked them, show of hands, how many of you think your clients, you know, particularly your business clients, have their estate plan in order? And when we worked down through the numbers, it averaged about 10%. And it wasn't because they weren't trying. It's because all of us are out there doing the business and forgetting to take care of this.
Right.
And it's so easy to do. I want to go to the next section, which is resources. And Denice, let me pull up your website. And why don't you tell us what's at your website, resources, and how somebody might reach out to you as well?
Well, the website has a lot of different resources on it. I put a lot of content on it so that people could understand what it is that they have in concepts. I have 70 different YouTube videos that are connected with the website. We usually blog at least twice a week, on different legal topics, to both people on a list that we have, as well as you can go to the website and you can see those blogs. So, we try to reach out and give a lot of information because basically there's so much information out there for an entrepreneur or other clients to try to know, and nobody can know everything unless you're in the business like us. So we tend to share.
Well, I've gone through the blog too, and there's so many important subjects that are great. Let me go to the last segment, which is key takeaways. And I've taken a lot of notes, and this is an area that I'm real passionate about because I got to tell you, having had the privilege of working with hundreds of very successful entrepreneurs, we just did a study with Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach and Joe Polish of Genius Network, where we surveyed over 3,500. I can tell you that most of us haven't dealt with this area. When we did, we dealt with it so long ago that our life has changed, our financial net worth, our business. I know for sure, excuse me, the tax code has changed. So much has changed, but we don't effectively deal with this. So how do we do it? One, we got to recognize it's a challenge. Two, Denice walked through the process, and it's really quite easy to deal with.
At our office, we always try to, I say, do the heavy lifting. You can sit down with your spouse and have a glass of wine and talk about 4 of the top issues that need to go into this and come back to us, and then we're going to fill in some of the gaps for you. But another area, just as an offshoot of this, that there's a lot of interest in is not only passing of wealth, but passing of what your values are. So in our office, we do a will of values, for people to actually tell their kids these are the values we have, and that culminates eventually, many times, into what we have as our Life Lessons program, where we interview people about segments, different things in their life, and we give them a deliverable that is a bound volume of their pictures, their words, and a DVD with them in chapters of their life. I'm not in it, thankfully, because nobody's interested in me. So you're transmitting the values to that next generation or whoever's going to take over for you, and you can capture that culture that you started with, so that that can also pass along, so we don't end up with it takes 1 generation to make it and 2 to lose it. Hopefully we'll have many more generations that will come out of those businesses as we do those succession plans.
This is great, Denice. And really what I want to do is I want to encourage everyone to go out. We always talk about making a difference. Well, one of the differences we should make is to our families, to our friends, to our communities, and having our estate plans in order, having our business succession, our most important asset, dealt with, and just go do it. Your family, your clients, your future clients, they're all counting on you. Don't let them down. We have the transcript, the notes, the links, everything's at aesnation.com. Let's go make a difference together. Wish you the best of success.
Oh, thank you so much.
Exceptional, remarkable breakthroughs. aesnation.com.